There you go. Recording this session, and then me saying hello, everyone. Good afternoon to you. Good morning to those of us on this side of the planet. Welcome to our fifth and final session of the BSO Biotrade webinar series, our second edition. Hopefully that by the close of this session, you will walk away saying, that was cool, that was good, we learned a lot. Hopefully, let's see. Today, we're going to have a session with the UNCTAD team that works on statistics and statistical analysis. And this is very, very interesting and relevant because they have been doing some work for Biotrade. So they have a few indicators on Biotrade they will be able to share with us, but more generally, they are going to share with us a tool that UNCTAD has prepared for managing statistics and data. And I'm very excited about what we will see today. So let me introduce to you David Cristallo, Anton Zubczyk, and Sonia Blachier from the UNCTAD statistics team. And because I am very ignorant about what they know, I will just shut up now and leave the floor to them, the expert who know what they're talking about. And I won't make an ass of myself. So gentlemen, lady, please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. So I'm Anton Zubczyk. I'm working as a data manager at the UNCTAD, so the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. So we are dealing with trade, with investment and development issues. So I'm not an expert in the biotrade field. I'm more on the technical side, the statistical side, on data. So UNCTAD compiles and validates a wide range of data collected from national and international sources. We're using UNCTAD, which is a free-to-use dissemination platform concerning this data, and in particular, Biotrade data. So the statistical series are updated regularly, annually, monthly, quarterly. I will introduce you to UNCTAD, which offers reports with analytical groupings and a different coverage for large type of data. Let me share my screen.
In the meantime,
can you see my, because I have multiple screens, so can you see my screen?
We have the same situation. I also have multiple screens, but yes, we do see your screen. Okay. Just before you begin, I will post the evaluation link on the chat box. Please do not forget to fill it in. Of course, you can wait until the end once we're done, right? Not evaluate before the thing. But also remind you that you can ask questions on the chat box at any time, so we don't interrupt the flow of the presentation unless Anton wants differently.
That's okay. Thank you. So a short summary of my presentation. So I already done a quick introduction to UNCTAD and UNCTAD. Now I will present you a report, the table that you can find in UNCTAD. So the table summary, what we call the dimension, I will explain this later, and the selection of items. I will talk also about the additional features, the chart, the exports of data, the function that you have when you sign in, and the bulk download. And then I will go to the other tools that we provide, like the country profiles or other stuff. So I will go to the UNCTAD website. You can see the website, that's okay. So,
Yes, we can.
Thank you. We are on the main page of UNCTAD. Don't go into details, but maybe as you don't know this platform, so UNCTAD is a platform for statistics. We have different type of information. First, the data center that I explained to you, the bulk download, the country profiles, release calendar, and the indicators explained. We have also a different type of publication. I will go back to this in the end. So what is interesting today, it's the data center. So where we publish all of our table. So here you can see on the left side, the report, the category of statistic. This is the kind of folders by a thematic approach. So we are not focusing on Biotrade. We are dealing also with trade and merchandise trade and services, plastics trade, which is a new category, maritime transport, etc. And also population. So here I will focus on the trade and biodiversity reports. So here, if you click on the trade and biodiversity, you will see around 12 reports dedicated to the biotrade. So every report has a title, of course, so a short description of the content of the report. You can find also what we call the metadata, so additional information concerning this report. Just if you click on the small icon, which opens the table summary, let's have a look. Here, this table is very simple. So you can find the description, the source that were used, and the note. So this example is very short, but if you want to go back to something maybe more longer, so this one is a more complex indicators. So the product concentration indices of export and import. If you want to have some explanation concerning the data and the indicator used in this report, you can also click in the table summary. Then you will have a longer description and a formula and some notes, some information concerning this report. So each report, each table has its own table summary. So now the main interest is the data. So let's select the first table. So the trade, so always on the biotrade side, the trade in thousands of US dollars annual. So every report published on UNCTAD has more or less the same layout, the same function. We have, first you can see distinct fields here, the flow, the economy, the partner, the year, and the product. In UNCTAD we call them dimension. So the dimension is a sort of a category of data. For year, it's very simple because it's obvious that you will have the different year. For the flow, so the dimensional flow have two items in it. It's a simple example. So if you can click on the small arrow, you can see that you can browse the data. So you have only two items, import, export. So each of this dimension has different items. the main interest in UNCTAD is that the reports are not static. You can move every dimension. You can see in each small rectangle on the left side, you have a kind of gray zone that you can drag and drop to move it. For instance, I want to move the flow as a column. So let me also introduce that you have three positions for the dimensions. You have the rows. So here, the dimension product has been put on the rows. You have also the columns. So here, the year in columns, it's obvious. And the others position for the flow, economy, and partner. So as I said, you can move, for instance, if you have to switch the dimension flow with the dimension year, you can drag and drop this one to this one. So the report will be instantly updated. You can move, I don't know, maybe to switch the economy with the product. So then you will have the economy in rows. You can switch then the flow to the partner. So you can move every report in UNCTAD to get the data, to get the layout that we want. And so by moving the dimension. Of course, another interesting option is that you can select the data that you want to display. So let's say we want to choose a certain group of the economy. So to keep the economy what you want, the economical grouping that you want. So let's click on the dimension. The principle is always the same for each dimension. So let's click on the economy. You will get a new window where you can select the country that you want, the group that you want. So here you can see that the list is quite long. If you want to scroll, you will have first all the individual economy, then you will have the geographical region, then the development status groups. So instead of browsing a long time, you can just type here, so collapse all to reduce the option, and then you can click in this small cross to clear your selection. Sorry, first you clear all, then you collapse all, and then let's say that we want, you can expand also every level of the hierarchy. So here we can select Asia and just select these regions. So by selecting these regions, you will also choose the economy. See, so if I just click here, I select the regions. If the list is longer, you can also use this function, select range. So you click first here, you select your first items, then the last one, then everything will be selected in your range. So simple example, we keep the 5 regions, the 5 geographical regions of Asia, show tables. So you see that the list of the economy has been reduced to these 5 regions. So let's go back to the selection of here. So I drag and drop the dimension here. The list is a bit long, so let's say we'll keep the 2 lists here available. So once again, I click on the year dimension. Here I uncheck everything. Let me select the 2 lists here. Then show table. So the list is now shorter. You can do what you want in every. You can also maybe add here the flow dimension in the rows. So you will have a more detailed report. So yes, another point is that we have also includes metadata for certain dimension. So I explained the small table summary here. You can see here for the product dimension, you have also the same icon. So if I click on it, sorry, it's in French. You can click on it to get the information on the dimension. So it's not mandatory for each dimension. So once you have, let's say, this report that you want, the data that you want, you have a first approach. If you want to make a chart based on this data, you can click on the chart tab. So here you can have a different type of chart. Maybe my selection, I can always go back to the table. Here to be more simple, I will move the flow to keep only one flow. Maybe I will keep only 1 year. So go back to the chart. You have a simple chart, a bar chart, a column chart. You can select a distinct type of chart. So here the pie chart is a bit small. So if you can click on it, we'll have a larger chart. Something interesting also, so you can view here that you are still your selection activated. If you want to detail, let's say in Eastern Asia, the chart is also interactive, so you can click on the slice, on the yellow slice concerning Eastern Asia. And here you will have the data of the economy included in these groups. So here, a pie chart of the data of the economies of the Eastern Asia. You can always go back. You can choose what you want. Something also important. So once you have done your layout, if you don't want to lose everything, you can save your previous report. So that's a function. Here you have the small icon. So to save reports to my reports, you have to log in first. So the registration is very quick. So actually, maybe in 30 seconds you can log in. See the company tab, email. So I create my account. The registration is very simple. So now you can see here highlighted, it's the name of your report. So let's say my report, my first report, Biotrade. Click on the save. And now, if you go back to the reports, so to the first screen, you can see the new folder, my report, containing the report that you saved. So you can, with your registration, you can always go back to the report. You can also save your chart. So this one is a very simple chart. You will probably use more advanced features. So here also my first chart. If I go back, here it is. And of course, so it's the first approach of charts. It's not very powerful, but for a quick analysis, it's very useful. And of course, another function available is the export of data. You can see here the small icons. Maybe zoom in. So you have three icons. So it's the option for the export of your data. The first format is the native format used to create the tables. It's the Beyond 2020 format. It's not mandatory to have it, but you have to download first the software to visualize the data. So most of users will use the export to the Excel format. So let's say we want to export days data. So keep in mind that what you have selected will be exported. So if you want something more detailed, for instance, the individual economy of div groups, you have to select it first and then to export it to the XLS6 format. So a new window appears. You can download this data. Here. And if I open my report, here you have only the data that you selected. So it's the Excel format. You can also download it as a CSV. So if you want to use another software, a more complex software like SAS, Air, or what else, so you click on it, it's the same logic. You have a CSV at the end. Keep also in mind that you will have a kind of limitation. If you have a very large table report, you will be limited in terms of cells containing this report. I think the limit is 100,000 cells. So if you made, for instance, a longer, this one, I will select all the year. And to have a very long, you can also put the economy dimension as a column. Here I will select everything. Maybe to add also the year, to split also by year. So a very long report. If you want to export it, you will be limited. So we offer another way of exporting a large data set. This one, if you go back to the main page, you can see the bulk download section, which is also available here, the bulk download. So this page contains all the individual data sets of every report, so the whole data. If you scroll down to the trade and biodiversity, you can see that the 12 reports are available here. The 12 data sets are available here in a 7-zip format. So it's a kind of a zip format. So you can just download it. So this one maybe is a bit long. Yes, 900. So maybe a shorter one. So by clicking on the bulk download, you'll get the whole data, the whole CSV. So this one is less user-friendly because all data are in a database format. And this one is a small file. So probably already maybe thousands of rows. So you will have unformatted data, raw data, with a longer list of rows. So including all items of all dimensions of the report. So it's the full data set. So if you want to really work on all the data, just go to the bulk download section. So if now I close everything, I go back to the data center. So here are main functionalities. Another function, maybe more advanced function, now that I'm no, I'm not logged. If you log in, you can also keep a selection, for instance, a selection of economy, as I did. So supposing you kept only these groups and show tables, and you want to keep to register this this selection of economy, you can also save this kind of selection. So it's a save current selection as a profile, so that you can call it again if you're working on several reports, and then it will be applied to the other reports. It's useful when you have a long selection of economies, of a long selection of items, and you do want to apply it in every table that you're working on. So that's the, yes, maybe this one is not interesting here. So yes, small parenthesis. If you want to retrieve most of my explanation, you have a useful tutorials here with in 6 parts with a video on YouTube, small video. So here 2 minutes, it's between 2 and 3 minutes. In the, so the reports dimension, it's more or less what I explain, so the basic features. It's the selection of items. So you can retrieve all these tutorials here. You can see also additional information on these icons. So it's a more standard approach, explanation concerning the dimensions. So what I explained previously, a column dimension, row dimension, chart that I explained briefly. So more details information concerning also the data and for instance, the group that we are using in UNCTAD our classification. We can go to the documentation page. So apart from the country classification, the hierarchy that you were using, the geographical regions, the development regions. We have also explanation concerning other products, so the products classification, and also the updates that we made yearly. And also the frequently asked question if you have more technical on the way of using the data contained in UNCTAD. So if I register, I have to pay to access the data. The answer is no. The name of the dimension that we are using, economy partner, how some indicators are calculated, some technical questions on the export and import asymmetry. So most of answers are contained in the frequently asked questions. Let me show you also another product. So here in the data center, we have all the reports on different type of data. So we thought that users are not maybe always familiar with statistics and the way to handle these long tables. So we provided what we call the country profiles. So it's a country approach when we try to merge all the data related to one country, we have two types of profiles. The general profile, so more economic and financial indicator, and the maritime profile, because we provide also a large type of indicators related to the maritime trade. So let's have a look to the general profile. You can select the country on the right side. I don't know, Argentina. And all the data contained in the data center are displayed differently here. So the population, the CPI, the trade, so always all related to this country. You have different types, the economic trends, FDI, other indicators. So far, it's a sort of customized reports for each country. What is interesting also is that you can download it directly in a PDF, free-page PDF. It's sometimes useful for a presentation if in different country to have the main indicators that are also available on UNCTAD. So I don't know if you're interested in the maritime profiles relate also to the maritime data, trade also. So it's another way to display data and to get the data what you want. This one is not interactive, so a different approach. You have also this one, a part on the data exploration on some indicators, the product capacity index. So different type of visualization, a map on a specific indicator. You can select, you have a drop down selection. On the reveal comparative advantage, we have this kind of graphical representation, and you can still select the country that you want. Transport cost, and new data. So we update new data sets regularly on UNCTAD. So as we did for Biotrade. What can I say? We have also the release calendar. So as I said, I'm not an expert on the Biotrade side. Yes, I think that's...
Maybe I can come in and help you, Anton, with a couple of questions. Because as you've been presenting, I took the liberty of going onto your website and looking at the reports, and I find that there are many reports that are extremely interesting. For example, I found one of Biotrade as a percentage of gross domestic product annual. And I see that has been updated, very recently.
Yes,
the 14th of March, so very, very recently. Can you speak about how those indicators are created? Because, I mean, one of the key things that I don't know if everybody faces, one of the key challenges, at least I face, is understanding what is the size of Biotrade and what does it mean for a country. So, for example, when you talk to a government in, I don't know, Vietnam or Myanmar or wherever, and you want to make them go into a policy that favors Biotrade, the problem is you have no data to say, well, Biotrade is actually very important and we could be doing so much more about it. So maybe you can elaborate a bit on the process by which you get to these data, and in a way what it means.
I'm not really involved in the process of making the data. I'm more on the other side, on the production of statistics. So, but this one is as you said, this is an interesting indicator because we have a selection of products that have been labeled as Biotrade products. So here, basically, we sum up all the items, all the Biotrade items, so every product, and we compare this sum of values to the GDP, so the GDP for each country, to get a kind of a share of Biotrade compared to the GDP. So here you can see maybe this formula is a bit hard for some of you, but it's the sum of the export and the imports of the Biotrade products divided by the GDP reported by this country. So what is interesting here is that you can, in UNCTAD you can compare different type of different selection of data. Middle Africa. Go back to the Asia. So here in Southeastern Asia, you can have a clear distinction between countries, between the share of the Biotrade products reported to the GDP. And as I show you, maybe to have just a selection of a year. Here, just in this data, you can see a wide range of share of GDP. So here you can compare this the Biotrade weight for each of these economies, so to their GDP.
So in a way, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
That a country like Cambodia has almost 50% of its GDP, like half the size of its economy, represented by Biotrade trade, by trade in Biotrade products.
Yeah.
Whereas a country like Laos, which could be roughly the same, very roughly the same level of development, only has 18%, around 20% of GDP. So these are very, very important differences. And Brunei, that also has a lot of like natural resources, if you will, like wildlife and Biotrade potential, only has 7% of its GDP represented by Biotrade.
Yes, and you can select also a chart to clearly see the difference between economies.
Yeah, that is very impressive. Thank you very much for showing us this. What about that? Wait, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, all of this is about trade, right? So it's about imports and exports of certain types of products that have been labeled as Biotrade. And the label by Biotrade has been provided by the Biotrade team, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Because in some of the other data tables that you showed, there were animals and other different things. So particularly when you showed animals, it made me think, wait, are these, I mean, because if I remember correctly, the table, I think it was just a trade, that very first table that you showed.
This one.
Yeah, I think that was the one. Yes, that's it. Yeah, if you look at animals like buffalo or swine, you're probably looking at farm-grown animals, right? Like farm-reared animals. Whereas probably, I don't know.
In fact, here we have just a word about the product. We have the HS classification listing all the products by category and subcategory. So here, it's a kind of groups that you have, but in fact, if you have a look to another report, when you have priority products defined by the Biotrade team, here you will have the full labels of the products that we use to build this table. So it's very detailed. You can see, so it's a selection of products related to Biotrade. You can see here, all this data relate to the fish and different one row by each product. So this one is a distinct product, this one is another product. Yeah. So in the others reports, we merge every detail of every product by category, because the list is very long. It's thousands of products. So we can't easily display them in the other reports. But in these two reports, when you have the priority product, you have a list of the detail. So for every type of product listed in the other table, we just sum up. So here every product linked to coffee or tea. So there's already an aggregation for every group of products.
Right. Okay. Zoe, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the interesting the biodiversity of the Asia, South Asia country is a one I look at it. The Cambodia is a very huge among GDP. So next, I want to interested what kind of product they are selling to the international market. Individual country, I would like to see how to do it.
Ah, good question. Yes.
Yeah. So,
in fact,
for example, our country is a 70 point something in GDP. Yes. So, what kind of product we are exporting into the international market, and the Cambodia, where we compare the neighbor country, Thailand. Thailand is lower than our country. So normally Thailand also they have many biodiversity product, even though they are lower than us. Okay. So yeah.
So I'll try to answer to your question. So you can. It's a good question. So if I go back to the main report, because here we have the trade and you have a sort of detail. So if I can go to this report, and then instead of, I will switch, drag and drop this dimension here. I will go to the individual economies. And let's say we only, I want to keep one economy to have the detail, to have Cambodia.
Cambodia. Yeah.
So here, I just select one country. So now that I have my selection, I can switch it back. And then you have the detail of exports by group, by a group of products, but it's also a fine groups. Yeah. So only for Cambodia, so let's say maybe the latest year. So you have the detail of the Biotrade product exported to the world for Cambodia this year. And if you want something maybe more detailed, you can also, so this table is very large, in fact. You can also switch this to dimension in order to have, so the Biotrade product exported by Cambodia to each economy, each other economy around the world. And for this year, so you will have the detail, the value for also in thousands of United States dollars. and then you can, maybe I think you'll need to export it to a CSV or to Excel to then work on this data to apply a kind of top 10 of the main products exported by Cambodia. But I think, did I reply to your question?
Yes, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Very interesting how to collect the data from each country. Where, who is reporting to you, or you are under is a collecting teams collected by each country and each category product?
These are the country data. So each of these data, we're requesting a country database to have the details, very fine detail by product. I think maybe. No, it's not. I think you can have. Oh, I will go. If I go back to my report and I click on the small icon near the product dimension, you will have a short explanation concerning your question and the selection. With some methodological clarification, other product.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And okay, continue. Sorry.
Oh, I think that's okay from my side. David, Sonia, which are also in my team. Do you want to add something?
No, thank you, Anton. I think that's clear. So yeah, I mean, we all those data sets that Anton presented today are compiled using data from other organizations like the UNCTAD for the GDP, or the country data for trade data. So and from those data sets we build these reports here with a focus on biotrade, but we also have focus on maritime and other plastic trade and ocean trade and that kind of other indicators that might also be useful for you for your analysis. If you have any question, you can always get back to us using our generic statistics email, which is statistics@unctad.org. So you can always drop a question and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Great, thank you very much, David and Anton. Does anybody else have any more questions, any thoughts, anything you'd like to share regarding these numbers? I know that statistics are not necessarily the most sexy of topics, but I think that what is important is that we realize that it's not about the statistics themselves, it's about getting information from the data, making the data make sense and extracting value and facts and curiosities and things that speak to us from the numbers. I mean, the numbers themselves, they're numbers. It's how you make them sing and play and work for you that makes sense. So in that sense, I think that this tool that we've seen today is incredibly useful, because to me, it feels like Lego bricks. You can play around, you can take the same structures and move them in different directions. And now you've made a house, and then you've made a car, and then you've made something else. And it's like playing with Lego bricks, and that brings the kid in me out. So thank you for that. That sounds interesting. Anybody else has questions, comments, thoughts they'd like to share? Can you see yourselves using this type of tool in your preparation of reports, in your preparation of presentations, of documents that you want to submit? So for example, I am thinking that those of you tasked with representing companies to your respective, oh, Tip, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Just very short, quick question. I recall another session we're talking about the statistic when it comes to the mirror type of statistic.
The mirror
So
data.
I wonder the statistic here for especially for Laos, and most of them would come from the importing countries, right? Their partners countries, and quite often it's bypass the actual volume of trade. So I'm not sure how accurate and what is the, you know what I mean, accurate number for
So
Laos.
let me try to see if I understand your question to make it to help our experts understand it. When we were looking at ITC's trade map, one of the things we were explained is that for countries that do not report data or the data is a bit sketchy, they use mirror data, which is basically, well, mirror data. It's about building a profile based on what the other partners say they trade. So yeah, there's inherent problems with mirror data, but at least it's better than no data. So I guess that Tip's question is, okay, in the case of Laos, we typically do not have great statistical information. So is the data that you report on Laos also built on mirror statistics or any type of that same approach? Yes, Tip, have I interpreted your question appropriately?
Yes, correct. Thank you.
That can be the case. Indeed, the mirror flows are sometimes used to estimate trade data. I don't know if it is the case for your country, but we can ask the statistician who is in charge of this data set, which estimation method has been used. We have several ways to estimate missing trade data. Mirror flows is one of the methods, but on this specific question, I cannot tell you if it is the case or not for your country, but we can ask.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Sorry if I'm distracted, but it's 1st of April and we're having snowfall. So it's anyway, the beauties of spring.
Exactly.
Okay, and Sonia has been feeding our chat with information on the methodology and the classification of Biotrade goods. So yeah, bear in mind that this information is there for you to understand, because I confess, I still, when we say Biotrade products, but we look at these statistical classifications, well, one thing that is to me not completely clear, but it's, I think, the nature of the beast, is that, for example, Anton was showing us numbers of data on fish being traded. And this fish might be caught in the wild or it might be aquacultured, right? And there are types of fish which are aquacultured and captured in the wild. And from the data, it's impossible to know if it's been caught in the wild or aquacultured if they're identified by the same code. So I guess a note of prudence, a note of caution should be one of the key issues when analyzing data, right? What would you say about this, David, Anton, Sonia?
No, for sure. You always have to be cautious. Products are not as detailed as we would sometimes like, even though the classification is already very, very detailed. So yes, depending on the analysis that you are doing, of course, I mean, you have to be cautious about the data themselves. I mean, we try to be as accurate as we can. We try to use as much as possible official statistics reported by countries. But nevertheless, as you know, there are discrepancies between the export and the import side. There are a lot of explanations for those discrepancies, and yeah, classifications are not always as detailed as we would like. So, of course, you always have to be cautious when using those data.
Yes, and you don't calculate averages and you don't calculate stuff. I mean, you're not necessarily estimating like analytical elaborations on the data, right?
No. Our mission is to build accurate data sets to try to estimate missing data as much as we can, but it's not always easy. And yeah, to produce the best possible data on several indicators. Basically, this is the mission that we have in the UNCTAD Statistical service.
And as you have said, it is not necessarily simple, easy, obvious.
No, because I mean, data are not always available worldwide. Some countries have difficulties to compile their statistics, and we try to help them as much as we can, but we have limited resources. So yeah, it's not always easy, but this is quite an exciting mission, and we are happy to take part to that kind of seminar and to showcase what we're doing to countries and help them get the best from what we produce.
And I think you're doing a really interesting job, because again, I think that your tool, this tool that you've shared with us, again, it sort of brings the child in me that wants to play with the Lego and wants to build different things using this data.
But that's the idea. That's the idea, and that's why we try to be consistent. Among those data sets, so that you can compare a data set to another one, because they all have, for example, the country dimension is the same for all data sets, as the same coverage. And this is something that brings consistency in the comparison that you can do using different data sets and all those bricks, you know, to build the analysis that you want to prepare. And this is a big part of the work, you know, trying to build consistent data sets that user can easily compare and use for their own analysis. I think the Lego is a very nice image, and that's it basically.
Good. Well, I'm happy that you've shown us this nice Lego set that we all can play with, and we all can play for free, which is even more interesting. So thank you for that. Before I let you leave, I would like to do two things. We have this tradition in our sessions that at the very end, we all put on our cameras and we give a big smile so I can take a picture and sort of capture the moment. So I would like you all to turn on your cameras and let us see your faces, your smiley faces for a second. It won't be more than a minute while I take the picture. Okay, there we go. Ready? Oh, Aditi's coming in. Are you ready? Say cheese.
Cheese.
Cheese. Great, thank you so much. Now, David, Anton, Sonia, thank you very much. It has been very interesting. I know this is not the type of work that everybody does every day in terms of going and consuming data, but it's been very stimulating to see that there are tools like yours that can make this typically daunting task you tend to be an expert to play around with data. Otherwise, it's a kind of thing that just seems too difficult for people. But at least, having the tools that make it easy to play around with data makes the whole thing easier and more friendly. So thank you for showing it to us. We will be having a little bit of a chat on what could we be doing with this and the other tools we've seen. So thank you very much from me and from all of us. And we definitely hope to see you soon.
Great, thank you. And it's the last day of your seminar.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Okay, so enjoy this last day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to showcase what we're doing. It's always good. I hope you find this interesting, and maybe we have other opportunities to discuss about maybe other data sets or maybe more advanced training if you believe it is useful. Have a nice day and have a nice end of your seminar.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
David. Thank you, Anton. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, and in the meantime, I would like to have a chat with you regarding what we've done in the past 5 days, and what do you think would be the way you can do things, the way you can use all of these tools, all of the knowledge you have acquired to deliver services, because ultimately you're all BSOs, right? You're all either for profit or non-profit, whatever it is, but you're all in the business of delivering services to companies so that they can export more, and particularly more of Biotrade products. So I'd like to pick your brains and get a feeling of how do you think this can be useful, and how do you think, can you already think of a specific service that you'd like to start delivering soon? Floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Miguel, for organizing this webinar. From my learnings, I think the more impressing in the presentation is that we have to know how to use this data, ITC database, but just is now is introducing these kinds of database, how to use this now, especially now is the statistics as was for the Biotrade. So we have to know which country, even in the ASEAN country, we have to know which country is more exporting, importing, that's kind of Biotrade products. So we can find out yearly, annually, and then we, analyzing. We can analyze by ourselves because the data can be downloaded, and then this is very useful. So we cannot get we cannot obtain the data, the reliable data, not other sites. So this site is very useful for us, but I don't know whether we can access this site freely or the
Yes.
maybe some limitation or something. I don't know.
No. Everything that UNCTAD produces is completely free of charge. And the same thing with ITC's tools. They're all completely free of charge to access.
Okay. Just only registration.
Yeah, if you were based in Germany, it would be it could be different, at least for ITC's tools. But for UNCTAD, they're all free of charge.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Anyway.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. Again, you work with an association, and when we work with associations, there's always the challenge of demonstrating to the government that our sector is important, that they have to pay attention to what we have to say, because it is important. Okay, and how do we show it's important? Well, statistics and numbers, and for example, that share of Biotrade in GDP, that is a really powerful tool. But then also I was looking at the
That's
table
right.
and it says that Southeast Asia is among the highest, but if you look at Western Europe, it's even higher as a percentage of GDP. So you say, okay, so it's not like we are poor countries, though Biotrade is very big. It's even the very rich countries in Western Africa, in Western Europe, like Germany and France, etc. They have a very big share of Biotrade in GDP. So there doesn't appear to be a very clear association as if Biotrade is a poor country thing. Not at all. It's actually also a rich country thing. So I think, having data is incredibly useful to be able to tell what is the reality of the thing, right? Because unless you can show numbers and data, then you're only babbling. You're only talking, but data gives grounding to any argument. So yeah, I think this tool I particularly like because of that, because it gives you access to a lot of databases, a lot of content in very simple, manageable ways.
Mhm.
Yes, Lala, I agree. Tip, you wanted to say something.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I think for the 5 days here, I feel really appreciate that. Rich of knowledge hub is there, right? Not just for our organization alone as a service provider, but I think for Laos context, there's still missing knowledge gap in this area. And it's triggered me about even the university level. And when you mentioned about it's free of charge, because this one, every time that we ask, is free of charge and it's easy, can be accessed enough. You have anyone to support you, something like that. And for the 4 days, 5 days that we've been through together, I found that's very rich information and knowledge. And that is coming in the right time for Laos context. In the past 2-3 years, you may say, oh, no way that people will sit down and do their own learning. But now it's become a norm now. So for me as an organization, and of course as business, oriented organization, we need to look for opportunity to provide that. And if asking how can we start with that, of course, at the moment we kind of start to engage in the Biotrade, our friends here. So we make sure that we capture this opportunity, apply the tools, and explore and exercise it more, which I feel is very useful information. And apart from that, I'm thinking all kind of the tools here, market access analysis, not the trade in general, right? Or the trade in general, including Biotrade too. Then how can EDC as an organization can also, share with the others, like the other institutions. For example, we might have a free seminar, something that we can come together and go through, and they may need you support your guys to lead through the programs and things like that. I think this would be very useful for now, as a starting point at the moment. And for sure, when you mentioned yesterday that many of the program 4 hours over 2 weeks and things, it's free of charge, it's introductory, as you mentioned. But of course, they have to go through this first before they go, more than that. So I really appreciate this. Of course, we need to share with my management team and think about how can we leverage on the one we have so far. Yes, we definitely need to, optimize, the opportunity we have, the rich of knowledge we have, I think. Yeah.
I completely agree with you on the value that can be extracted from all these tools. I think that indeed it is an opportune moment for every country represented in this meeting, because, every country is going through its own challenges and situations, We know Myanmar is going through a really challenging times, and Laos is, on the brink of a major change, and Vietnam has also been going through a significant change, and so there's a lot of like opportunity out there, and it's really a good time to start delivering, for example, information services. There's one thing that all three countries share, and we don't necessarily have somebody from Cambodia, but Cambodia also shares the same problem, is that there is limited availability of market information out there. I mean, companies don't really understand who is selling what to whom and who do they compete with, and when you ask them, okay, you want to export, where do you want to export? The responses that come tend to be just reactions saying what everybody is saying. China is big, so we should sell to China, but China buys cheap. And selling to Europe is selling expensive, but it's very difficult. And without really understanding whether that is actually true or whether there are other markets that could be interesting, or whether there are other opportunities. So market information, I am absolutely convinced, is a huge opportunity. I'm also convinced that there is a lot of work to be done around sustainability and what it means for companies, and how can companies engage in sustainability practices without investing massive amounts of money in certification and audits and like all these third-party things that cost piles of dollars. And I think that is a definite area of potential opportunity. There are many opportunities, and one of the reasons why I have organized this series of webinars is to bring you all, give you access to these tools that I personally am very, very fond of. I'm a big fan of all these tools, but also to have the opportunity of having this conversation, saying, well, there's all of these things. What can you think of doing? But also remember that within the Helvetus program, there is the opportunity of working with me and with Profound on helping you build all these services, right? So please do not hesitate. And if you feel that maybe even just a conversation with one of us would help you clarify your ideas and bring more substance to whatever it is you're doing, please don't hesitate. That's what we're here for. That is what the Helvetus program is here to do, to help you deliver better services. So for certain, please don't hesitate. Anybody else has comments, thoughts? What has this experience made you think? Yes, Pukong.
Yes, thank you very much. Very nice to see you again.
Same here.
First of all, I would like to express my special thanks for you and your team for providing the very good opportunity for me to learn about the tool and the new idea for exporting, especially how to find out the information for export marketing. I think NCCI and especially SSC, we have a lot of a member and the new exporter, but we lack of the information about this and how to access to the international market information. I think this tool is very important for our exporter for prepare themselves before access to the international market. And I would like to use myself to my opportunity to further find out the information and learn again for this. For myself, it is not enough to make understand clearly about the procedure and how to access the information yet. That's I think I would like to learn again and to disseminate the information about it to my Lao SME. I have some seminar and some of training course. That is very good for me to disseminate the information about this to Lao entrepreneur and to Lao exporter for their information, for their source of information, for their improvement for international market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, I completely agree with you on the importance of the content, but I also see that in many cases, companies don't necessarily have the time nor the knowledge to access the databases or access the tools and understand how to extract value from them. So perhaps, sorry, there's a ring on the door. Can you hold for a second? I'm very sorry. I'll be back in a second. Sorry, I am back. Indeed, I needed to open the door. So what I was saying is that in many cases, companies, individual companies, particularly SMEs, don't necessarily have the time nor the knowledge to sit down and play around with these tools and extract value from them because, they don't know what to make of it. So probably what makes a lot more sense is that you as BSOs, you as providers of services, develop a service, develop a report, maybe a one-page thing that you produce every, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, I don't know when, but one report that is very simple, 2-3 pages. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be a master's thesis, just make it practical, make it short, make it simple, but make it regular. Because then when people see regular reports coming in and they see value from those reports, they want it. It's a bit like when you read the newspaper and I don't know if you have the habit of having newspapers delivered to your door nowadays, but I do remember when I was living in Colombia, I got the newspaper delivered to my door every day. And I just woke up every morning. I knew I wanted to go and get the news because I knew where to get it and when I would get it and what content I would get. So if you manage to produce that same type of dynamic of delivering something that people want to read and do so regularly, you're going to be adding a lot of value and probably a lot more value than giving people access to TradeMap and saying, go here, click, 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 and here comes out this beautiful picture. What does it tell me? So, when it comes to market information, I am a big proponent. I'm very big on making sure that you do give people things that are practical, simple to understand, and especially that are not built on jargon, on complex words, on technicalities. I've done studies in economics and statistics and all these things, so I understand the jargon, but it bores me to death It's boring. I don't like reading these very complex words. Ugh. I prefer simple things. I prefer, 3 sentences in plain English or plain language that explain to me, as if I was 6 years old, what things are about. So if you can do that work of translating these complex issues into simple sentences, I think you're helping people quite a lot. So, I think that you're delivering an incredible amount of value without investing too much. I mean, one of the things that we've seen, one of the key things about the 5 tools or the 5 days of webinars is everything is free of charge. So you don't have to invest, there's no subscription fees, there's no money that has to be spent. It's your time, your effort, your imagination and creativity of looking at these things and saying, maybe I can pull in stuff from Trade Map, pull in stuff from Export Potential Map, and maybe some stuff from UNCTAD Stat, and prepare this report and publish it. Give it to my members, give it to my people, see what they think. And do that every month, every 2 months, whatever it is. But I think that is the value of the opportunity that is embedded in these tools. So yeah, I would invite you to think about what can be done. So for example, Zol was mentioning yesterday, another simple thing that doesn't have to cost a lot of money is taking the courses on the ITC E-Trade Academy and translating the texts into your local languages and providing that. It's an investment that you do once, and then you can continue delivering the same service many times because it's done. It's very simple. But then it's great for people that don't necessarily speak good English, and go on these training courses, and they can learn a lot. So, I mean, the purpose is to use these tools to make simple but very powerful services. Jan is posting on the chat box saying ITC's complementary stats and other tools are beneficial to all BSOs in developing nations with minimal resources. I completely agree. In regards to the stats, it's even better than paying for a service like GTIS, in my opinion. Please maintain it in perpetuity. We owe you a huge debt of gratitude. No, it's me who owes you a debt of gratitude because you are going to be using these tools. I mean, I'm only introducing you to cheap things, to free tools, because they're available. But I mean, ultimately, we need to thank the UNCTAD, our government, and the whole system of the UN, because they allow these tools and these things to be available. But Jang, I'm not familiar with GTIS. I'm familiar with some other subscription services, and having worked with Trade Map and Market Access Map, and now with UNCTAD Stats, I do wonder how they can justify many of their very expensive subscription services when there are these things that are free of charge. I've had that conversation with a guy based in Geneva that has a service, and he showed me why his service is valuable to a certain people. And that's fine. For them, it makes sense. But for the vast majority of people, as you're saying, Jang, these tools are just plenty good enough. They deliver a hell of a lot of value. So no need to go and pay very fancy, expensive services, particularly when we can do the analysis in-house. Right? It's about us sitting down, extracting information, thinking about it, and putting it in a piece of paper. Well, now in a Word document or something like that. Okay, guys, we've babbled on for a half an hour. Does anybody else have any comments, any thoughts, anything they'd like to share on today or all of the 5 webinars that we've done? I have something to share, and that is that I would really appreciate it if you can complete the evaluation forms. I'm still missing evaluation forms for day 1, for the very first day in which we saw the Biotrade principles and the self-assessment tools. I have sent that form via email to your country, Helvetus country coordinators. Please get in touch with them because I do need your feedback. Your evaluation is absolutely fundamental so I can report on these webinars and we can continue making them happen. So please, yes, do not hesitate and complete this form. It's there on the chat, and let me copy it again. Yeah. No, for some reason I can't go. Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay. So the very last post there is the evaluation form. Please, pretty please do complete it. Help us that way. I have seen that several of you have been completing 1 evaluation per organization. I am interested in what you as a person have to say, not as an organization. So please don't just say, you know, my boss will do it. Please come in and show us, tell me what you think, because it is important. That's the first thing. The second thing is, well, you know where to find me. You know where to find the support that I and Profound that we at AGBA can deliver through the Helvetus program. Please don't hesitate and ask for help. If you feel that you need help in thinking about many of these services or putting together some of these services or whatever it is, please do not hesitate. Here we are, that we are part of the program to do precisely that, to help you develop new services, to help you deliver value to companies. So here we are, reach out and yeah, touch us for anything that you need. With all of this, I will say thank you very much for being here. You have been persistently staying on the webinars, even if I know that all of you are busy and have other things to do. So you deciding to share 2 hours a day with me is mostly appreciated. Thank you very much. I hope you have found it valuable. I hope that indeed you are taking away really interesting and stimulating stuff that you can put to good use. I will now therefore say thank you and goodbye. I hope to see you all very soon. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.